Hey guys, it's Pastor Brian, and I wanted to follow up with you because last Sunday in the 10:30 service, I had a bunch of folks write in on your Connect card, and by the way, thanks for doing that, and write in and said, hey, great illustration, love the envelope illustration, but I was confused. There were some things that I missed, and you're absolutely right. I did miss some things, so I thought I'd take a moment and just kind of go over the entire illustration one more time, and then prayerfully, we'll all hope that I'll cover all the questions that you hit. So again, I just want to refer to the bulletin that we shared this last week in our message notes. I believe you can still download that off of the church app or on our website. And in the message notes, I said how to use the envelope system. And I started out by saying we want to kill the big balance busters. Now, those are the things in your finances that tend to take you down because you didn't see it coming, or you should have seen it coming, and it just does. And often in accounting, we would call this a sinking fund. There's things that you want to set aside that you say, hey, I know this is going to happen, so I want to stow away a little bit of money, little by little, so that I'll have enough to cover those so that it doesn't take me down, so I'm not having to borrow, or I'm not having to steal from my saving. And so the Bible says this, and look here in the notes I said, whoever gathers, Proverbs 13:11, whoever gathers little by little will have plenty. And so what we want to talk about in the envelope system is that principle of gathering little by little. And you remember Joseph in the Old Testament was promoted to the highest position in all of Egypt, all because he knew how to use an envelope system. Well, maybe not quite an envelope system, but he actually understood the system of storing away for a rainy day. We also see this in the New Testament. Remember, Jesus gave the parable of the 10 virgins. He said 5 were wise and 5 were foolish. And the 5 were wise simply because, the Bible tells us, they brought enough oil to last through all of their waiting. And rather, the foolish version, they didn't bring enough. They just brought enough that they thought would last them for just long enough. And they didn't have enough when that went over. And so Jesus says, these are wise because they stored up. They had enough stored away for a rainy day. And so Grandma used to say, the rainy day's coming, so a wise person will store that away. So that's what we want to do. Well, how do you do this? How do you do an envelope system? I've given an illustration of Sally in here. And Sally makes $32,000 a year, because round numbers are easier. And that means that her gross weekly pay is about $576.92 to be exact. Her net pay, that is after taxes, after Uncle Sam takes his part, her net pay is going to be $480 a week. Now, Sally begins by first, this deposit that she's going to get into her checking account, we're going to make this the representation of the full deposit of her net check. So this would be in 1 week, this deposit would actually come out to $480. And so the very first thing that Sally's going to do every single week is she's first going to pay God her tithe. And so because Sally takes that serious as being a gross tithe, she decides to tithe off her gross. Now that's going to be $58. That's the first thing. So she's going to tithe $58. She can use her church app for that because the app is where it's out. And so she's going to use the app and set that aside and pay God first. Now remember, we said that wise stewardship acknowledges God as the owner of all things. And the way that we acknowledge God is the principle of the tithe. The tithe acknowledges that we put God first. And so we're going to pay that first. Second, we're going to pay ourselves. And so we're going to put into our savings 10% of our net. 10% of the gross, 10% of the net. So 10% of the net is going to be $48. So you can set that aside. Now, left inside the checking account is all that's left over. Now, what she's going to do to do the envelope system, she's going to go and she's going to withdraw 25% of her net. Now, in this case, that's going to equal $120 of the net deposit. So she's going to take out 25%, and with this 25%, which is in cash, she's going to use that for first her regular cash spending. So she's going to take half of it, 50% of the ATM withdrawal of cash. That's how much is 50% of 120? Well, that would be $60. So she's going to take that and set that aside. And remember, this is cash. And why do we set this aside as cash? Why don't I just use my check card? Because you and I both know that when I don't do this in cash, I'm going to overspend. And so one of the disciplines is taking out your spending cash between paychecks into your actual cash. That way, if you need to buy a drink or you buy a soda or you're going to go buy a burger or whatever it is, you look inside your wallet. When this runs out, you stop spending. That's the principle of bringing this out in the cash. So half of that goes over here into my wallet. Then with the second half, which again is $60, she's going to put 15% of that into the next car envelope, 10% into the Christmas envelope, 10% into car repair envelope, 10% in her clothing envelope, and finally 5% in her personal care envelope. Now remember, every time she gets paid, she's doing this exact same procedure over and over. So over time, these envelopes are going to be gaining some money and building up so that when she needs to take out from that, it isn't going to take a hit. She's not going to run to her savings and pull it out of here, and she's not going to pull out MasterCard because no one wants to be mastered by their card. And so she's going to make sure that she has the money to pay for the stuff that you know are going to be these regular expenses. Now, let me explain a couple of these. First, I want to talk about this next car, new car combination. Now, notice I say next car, not new car, because ultimately we want to look at what can I afford for my next vehicle. I don't have to have a brand new car. Now, if you can afford that and save up for that, you should do that. You can do that. But listen, you want to set a budget for this. So what we do in my budget system, I set that over a 7-year time frame. And that means in 7 years, I'm ready to be able to get my next car. And so if you let this keep building, and maybe you wait for 10 years or 12, whatever that is. Now, my principle, we drive our current car till the wheels fall off. I'm just going to keep driving until it can be driven no more. And then and only then am I going to dip into the next car. Now, one of the things that is going to happen is that the car I'm driving now is going to need regular repairs throughout the year. So I want to build up a car repair envelope so that when I'm going to the auto dealer and I do I have to send it there and I'm going to have my oil changed and they come and call me in about an hour and they say, "Now, Mr. Ross, we while looking at your car noticed a widget that actually needs replacement." And I'm going to go, "Huh?" And because I don't know what that is, but I'll say, "Well, is that really critical?" And I'll say, "Well, you probably ought to do that because if you don't change that thing out, your whole family's going to die." Well, I probably better do that. Now, I want to be able to pay that from my car repair envelope, because if I don't, what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen. You're going to dig into this one. And you're going to go, "Oh my gosh, I don't have that, $178 to be able to pay for the thing that we don't know how to say it or pronounce it or even understand what it is." We're going to dip into this. So this keeps me from hurting this one. This builds up approximately a 7-year cycle, and so we're doing that regularly and consistently. I recommend everyone have a Christmas envelope so that every year you're prepared for Christmas. You're not going, "Oh my goodness, I forgot about Sue and Sally and Billy and Johnny," and all of a sudden you're bringing out the credit and you're doing Christmas on credit, telling yourself in your head, "Oh, I can afford it, I'll pay that off, blah, blah, blah." So we're building up that sinking fund because it's creating a discipline. The discipline is to save. You put it away so that you never impact. So that's important, to regularly, consistently, constantly do that. Now, some folks were in and they said, well, okay, Pastor Brian, this makes a lot of sense, and I'm divvying this up, and I'm taking this out, and I got my cash, and I'm filling my envelopes, and I'm filling up, I'm getting faithful, but how do I pay my bills? Okay, now remember, I said that you're taking out only 25% of your net deposit. And so 75% of your net deposit goes in here. And so what do? You set your systematic monthly budget according to the 75% of net, assuming that this is already taken off of the top and put out of sight, out of mind, so my budget is set against this 75% left inside. I've already taken care of God with my tithe. I'm putting into my savings. I'm putting that away for my emergency fund and getting ready for the eventual reality of something's going to happen. I'm making sure I have spending cash, so I'm not dipping into my account for that. I'm filling up on my envelopes with my sinking funds, and I set my budget according to this. So this is going to be your standard budget. Items are paid out of this. That's like your rent payment, your gas and groceries. Now, sometimes people say, well, doesn't Ramsey say I ought to have like a gas envelope and a grocery envelope and I could have a tic-tac envelope? I mean, you can go to the extent and make this just insane, but here's what Brian says. I live in an electronic world, and that means I definitely have a debit card. It's not a credit card. It's my checking card, and so I pay for stuff that's normalized to pay electronically through my debit card through my account. So, for example, I don't write a check. I probably have written one check in the last 2 years. I don't use checks. Every single other regular systematic payment that I do, housing, utilities, gas, grocery, is done off of a budget set from here to here, and it's paid electronically. You could do that through envelopes. I just simply choose not to. I found that monitoring my money helped me to figure out two things. One, what are the envelopes I need for my life? Your envelopes are going to be different for your situation. So that was the big one. What is that? And then also, what are the habits that's hurting me? What are the things that I'm seeing that, I'm going, that needs to be tamed into a budget. Now for you, if it's going out to eat too much, you need a going out to eat envelope. Just getting real. The way you tame these balance busters out of control, they're busting your back, is you actually discover what they are, and then you balance that, you tame them by saying, I'm not going to spend it unless I have it. And that means it's in cash. And that's the only way you're ever going to be able to bring balance back to your finances. I hope that this has been helpful to you. Please let me know if there are other questions that you have. You can simply, on this link, just be able to go ahead and write me a question as a comment. But hey, share this as well. And say, share this with somebody that needs some help in their finances and some help with their envelope system. And I'm excited about all those that are taking the Financial Peace University. God bless you. Thank you for doing that. But let us know how we can help you, as our heart as a church is hope and healing, hearts and homes. And here's what I know. Hope is a person. His name is Jesus Christ. But healing is a process, and that means we all need simple tools to help us live out the mission God's put in our life. God bless you. I'll see you Sunday.